It's Tuesday morning. Your laptop is open. You meant to open it this time.
Yes, because your inbox is already sorted and not by you, by the system you built. Three client emails that need a response are already flagged. The rest have been handled. A draft is waiting for each of the three.
Your weekly briefing is there. One page. What moved in your industry overnight. What your top clients are working on. What you need to know before your first call.
Now, you didn't write the briefing, you designed the system that does.
The pipeline is current. Your proposal for Tuesday's meeting was drafted at 6 a.m. this morning. You spend 12 minutes on it, not 3 hours.
So you open your calendar, four calls, all high value, all the work that only you can do.
And somewhere between the coffee and that first call,
You notice something. So, 5 weeks ago, we started a conversation about two kinds of mornings: the one that owns you and the one that you build.
today we close the loop.
I'm Kim,
I'm Hal.
and this is Small Business Big AI, the final episode of the Impact series.
5 weeks, one framework. Today, the step that changes not just what your business does,
But what it becomes.
transform the T in impact.
The step where your business is truly a technology enabled superpower.
Before we get into what transform looks like, I want to pause and highlight something because this series has been building in a very specific direction. Each step of the impact loop added a layer. Identify, knowing the decision, mode, defining the perspective, parameters, encoding the standard, activate, delegating the execution, check, governing the output, and now transform, which on the surface might sound like a destination, like we arrived.
But it's not the destination.
Tell me, what is it?
Well, that is transform. So, transform is the moment a business stops deploying AI and starts being shaped by it. How? Now, there is a difference. So, deploying AI means you're adding intelligence to processes that already exist, making things faster, more efficient, less dependent on you being in the room for every output. That's real value. That's what most businesses are working toward.
But it's still the same business running better.
And transform is something else. Transform is when the intelligence you've built, the workflows, the thinking systems, the governance layers, they start changing what the business can actually do. And not just how fast, but what's possible. So the scope of what you can offer, the scale that you can reach, the patterns that you can see that you couldn't see before, and the work you can take on without dreading what it cost you to take it on.
The business doesn't just run better, it becomes capable of something that it wasn't before.
That's right. And I want to show you what that actually looks like. Now, not even in the abstract, but in the people we've been with throughout this series. So let's come back to them because each one represents a point in the transformation arc. And together, they paint the picture of what becoming AI first actually looks like for a real small business. So we started with Marcus, the financial planner in Charlotte who almost gave up on AI because his newsletter outputs felt hollow. Now, he learned identify and mode. He wrote the direction note. He defined the operating posture, which was trusted advisor, not textbook.
And 6 months later,
Well, 6 months later, not just better newsletters, but more of them. Quarterly became monthly. Monthly became weekly market notes for his top clients, something that he never had the bandwidth to do before. So he added 11 new clients just this year, not because he hired anyone.
but because his communication capacity expanded without his time expanding with it. I know that 'cause straight from the dealership. The clients you had real relationships with, but couldn't tend to them the way they deserve, you prioritize, and some of the good ones get less than they should.
And Marcus solved that. Now, not by working more, but by designing a system that does the tending. And then we had Sophia, the Nashville skincare founder who built the system that has taste, mode at scale, parameters that encode the brand's judgment to every session for every team member. And 6 months later, she's not reviewing product copy batches anymore. Her team runs them through the intelligence layer. 2 or 3 edits, done. The time she spent correcting brand drift, it's going now into new product lines that she's been thinking about for over 2 years.
AI didn't free up her calendar, it freed up her thinking.
And that's the most valuable resource that she has. Then we have James, 42 inquiries, 40 minutes, 11 new recurring clients from one campaign. His workflow doesn't just handle leads now, it's given him the confidence to pursue growth in a way that he's always held back from. The administrative overhead that made expansion feel dangerous is no longer there. He's projecting 30% revenue growth just this year,
Not because the market changed,
but because the system can absorb what the market is offering without it costing James the thing that he spent 8 years protecting. And then we have Renata, who built governance after that fabricated citation, whose audit trail started revealing patterns, who doubled her client capacity in 6 months, not by working more hours, but by designing an intelligence architecture that handles everything the work requires before her hours even begin.
each of them has a different business than they had 6 months ago.
A genuinely different business, new capability, new scope, new capacity for the work that actually required them. Because intelligence is embedded now, not deployed project by project, but running as infrastructure, part of how the business operates every single day.
And then there's Elena.
Elena runs an executive coaching firm in Denver. 3 people, about 800,000 in revenue. She coaches leaders at the director and VP level. 6-month engagements, high touch, deeply personal work. Now, on her desk is something that has been there for 10 years, a single index card, 3 words on it in her own handwriting:
What does it say?
who you're becoming, not who you are, not where you've been, but who you're becoming. She put it there when she first started coaching as a reminder that every client she sits with is in the middle of something, not at the beginning, not at the end, in the middle of a transformation that they can't quite see yet. And she's never taken this index card down.
That's her whole philosophy in 3 words.
Right. And it shaped everything about how she built her practice. Now, Elena is a bit old school, okay? She doesn't take session notes on a laptop. She uses index cards, one per insight, different colors for different clients. So she has thousands of them stacked on her desk. They're in labeled boxes on the shelf in a small holder she carries to client sites. And it's 4 years of what she's heard, what she's noticed, and what she wrote down in the moment before it disappeared.
That's an extraordinary amount of captured intelligence.
Exactly. All of it organized by client, by relationship, by the individual person that she was sitting with, not by pattern.
Ah,
See where I'm going with this? She could tell you everything about each client, but she couldn't tell you what they all shared because she was too close to each one individually to see the shape of all of them together. But now, Elena had been roughly at the same revenue for about 3 years. Now, not because demand wasn't there, because it was, but because she'd run out of herself to give. Every new client was another set of hours, another relationship that required Elena to show up fully. And there are only so many hours in a day.
24 hours, no matter how you slice it. She's suffering from the ceiling of the operator who is the product.
Exactly that. And when you are the product, Hal, well, I mean, you know how it goes.
Yep.
Well, the good news is
She started listening to small business, big AI.
yeah, I guess you could say that. And she started building the impact loop methodically. Identify 2 weeks, just mapping every task and asking, what decision does this actually serve? Mode, the operating posture for every AI function, like the intake coordinator, the session note synthesizer, the content creator. And then parameters. She defined what premium coaching support looks like in specific measurable terms, what it never does and what it always does.
She crafted the full architecture before she turned a single workflow on.
Exactly. Architecture first, and then she activated, and then she governed. And about 4 months in, she's reviewing her workflow's activity log, looking at the session note synthesis from the past month across all of her clients. And she notices something that really she's never noticed before.
What does she notice?
Well, 3 clients from different industries and different roles, completely different words to describe what they're facing, but underneath all of it was the same barrier. Not surface level similar, the same root, the same visible wall that each of them keeps arriving at from completely different directions.
Something that she's written down on individual index cards.
Right, precisely. So she goes to that card box, finds the relevant cards for those 3 clients. Remember, different colors and different stacks. And there it is, her own handwriting, 3 times, different words on 3 different cards, same truth underneath of all of them.
She's already known it.
Yes, she'd known it. She just couldn't see it because it was scattered across thousands of cards organized by client, not by pattern. The AI layer didn't discover something new. It found something that she'd already written down and showed her the shape of it.
That's different from time saving.
Completely different. Elena thought about that pattern for a week and then she built something,
What?
a group program, 6 weeks, specifically designed around that barrier, the one her one on one clients kept hitting alone without knowing anyone else was hitting it too. So she reached out to 12 past clients who fit that profile and 8 enrolled. Revenue from that single program, $42,000. time to design and run it, about 20 hours of her actual attention.
A business model that didn't exist before she built the system.
Right. A business model that couldn't exist because Elena didn't have the data to see the pattern. She didn't have the capacity to design something new. She was fully occupied being the product, session by session, client by client, hour by hour. So the card on her desk said, "Who you're becoming." She'd been so busy helping her clients become, she hadn't had room to become something herself.
The intelligence layer didn't just free up her time.
It changed what she could see, and what she could see changed what she could build.
That's transform. Let's talk about the competitive dimension of this because I think it's a piece most operators aren't fully reckoning with yet.
The compounding problem.
Now, we started this series with a number.
76% of small businesses are already using AI tools, but only 14% have actually integrated AI into how their business runs. Now, that gap is real, but here's what's even more significant than the gap itself: the gap is not staying the same size
It's widening every month.
every month because the businesses that have built the intelligence architecture,
The ones running the impact loop,
exactly, the ones running impact, well, they are compounding. Every cycle adds capability. Every workflow they activate frees up capacity. Every pattern their systems surface creates a new opportunity. The advantage, it isn't linear, it grows faster than the effort that produced it.
I've been on both sides of that. At the dealership, there were years we had the structural advantage, systems our competitors didn't have, they hadn't built yet. And there were years when I watched the competitor do something I couldn't match, not because they were smarter or worked harder, because they had built something I hadn't built yet.
And that feeling, Hal?
It's not good. It's not a good one because the only way through it is time and work. And the competitor isn't standing still while you're waiting to catch up. You're closing a gap against a moving target.
And that's exactly where businesses that haven't started the impact loop are right now. Not locked out, not behind.
Running on a hamster wheel,
And every month on that wheel, they don't compound. The distance grows.
which means the time to build is not eventually.
Right. The time to build is now. AI isn't going anywhere.
Every month you run the loop is a month of compounding.
And every month you don't is a month you're not. I want to talk about something that doesn't get said enough in the AI conversation because most of what you hear is about efficiency, time saving, productivity gains, cost reduction, and all of that is real.
But it misses the most important shift. What you do as a leader changes.
Exactly. Before this work, before the intelligence architecture, you were doing two kinds of work: the work that only you can do, the high judgment, high relationships, high expertise work that makes your business worth something. And then the work the business needs done, like the coordination, the communication, the research, the drafting, the sequence, and the follow up. Now, both necessary, but only one of them is why clients choose you.
And the architecture handles the second kind.
When it's built right, yes, which means your role fundamentally shifts. You move from doing the work of the business to orchestrating the intelligence of the business.
No longer writing, but designing the system that writes. No longer researching, but defining what the research should be. No longer coordinating.
building the architecture that coordinates. And here's what that shift actually requires because it's not less work, Hal, it's different work.
So, what are you saying? What does it actually require?
Clarity. Clarity about what the business is for, what it stands for, what intelligence should and shouldn't do on its behalf, what good looks like, specifically enough to encode it into a system that runs without you in the room.
That's strategy, not administration.
And most operators never get to operate at that level because they're too busy executing to design.
If we look back at Elena, she spent 60 hours a month being the product. She now spends 40 hours doing the work that requires Elena and 20 hours designing the systems that extend what Elena can offer.
And those 20 hours produced a group program, $42,000, a new category of her business that couldn't have existed before.
The operator became the architect, and the architect built something the operator couldn't have seen because the operator was too busy showing up for the next session. Let's name the full loop because I want everyone who has been with us for all 5 episodes to hold the complete picture before we close.
Okay. Impact. I.
Identify.
Clarity before delegation. Know the decision. Know what success looks like. Brief the intelligence before you hand it a task. Then we have M.
Mode.
Define how intelligence should think, the operating posture, the perspective, the lens through which AI approaches the work. Then we have P.
Parameters.
Make the standard explicit, not guidelines, but rules, measurable, specific, repeatable. The definition of good that lives in the system, not just in the founder's head. Then we have A.
Activate.
Delegate the execution, build the workflow, give intelligence permission to operate inside the sequence and let the system run. Then we have C.
Check.
Govern the output, human judgment at the right moments, review the checkpoints, approval gates, audit trails that generate insight, not just oversight.
And T. Transform.
Transform is what happens when all 5 layers are working together, when intelligence is embedded in how the business operates, not deployed when convenient, but running as infrastructure when the business doesn't just run better.
It becomes capable of something it wasn't before.
And then the loop restarts.
Doesn't stop at transform.
Never stops. So when Elena built the group program, when she acted on the pattern her system surfaced, she started the loop again. New opportunity, new identify. What decision does this program actually serve? New mode. How should intelligence support the facilitation and the client experience in a group format? New parameters, new activate, new check.
Each cycle adds something the last one didn't have.
Each cycle brings the business to a level that wasn't accessible before. The loop doesn't close, Hal, it spirals. And the distance between what you could do in 1 year and what you can do in year 3 is not a measure of how hard you worked.
It's a measure of how well you designed.
That's compounding. Every rotation of the impact loop is a business becoming more capable of leading intelligence, more capable of seeing patterns, more capable of acting on what it sees, until the advantage isn't about the tool you're using. It's not about what subscription tier you're on. It's about what your system has learned to do and what your competitor's system hasn't learned yet.
Tools can be copied.
Right. Subscriptions can be matched, but a business that has learned how to lead intelligence, that has documentation, architecture, governance, and compounding capability built into how it operates. That's not a feature someone can replicate next quarter. That takes time. And the operators who started building it first have already been compounding for months. Now, one last challenge, and this one is different from the others because I'm not asking you to build something this week.
Just one question.
One question, and write it down if you need to. So, where does your next impact cycle begin? Not the whole loop, just the starting point. The one area of your business where you know that intelligence could do more than it's doing, where the thinking hasn't been designed yet, where the workflow hasn't been built, where the architecture is still living in your head instead of inside of a system.
It might be the same place you started, just the next layer.
Or it might be something completely new, a capability you couldn't see before you built the system, like Elena in the cards. The pattern was always there, the visibility wasn't.
What would you build if you had the visibility?
Start there.
5 weeks, one framework. And what I want to say before we close is that this series was never really about AI.
No, what it really was about is leadership.
A new kind of leadership, the kind the next decade is going to demand from every operator who wants to build something that lasts.
And not the leadership of working harder, Hal. Not the leadership of knowing more than everyone else in the room. The leadership of knowing how to design intelligence, how to deploy it with intention, how to govern it with accountability, how to build a business that keeps getting more capable, not because you're grinding harder than the competition, but because your system is smarter than theirs. Identify, mode, parameters, activate, check, and transform. That's not a checklist. It's not a course. It's not a tool. It's an operating system for a business that learns.
And the operators who build their business on this loop, who run it once, then again, they're building something most of their competitors aren't.
They're building a business that learns, a business where the intelligence is designed in, where the thinking is documented, where the execution is structured, where the oversight is real, where each cycle through the loop makes the whole system more capable than it was before. Tools respond,
Systems run.
and the businesses that design the systems, those are the ones that compound, that outperform, that create advantages so structural, so durable, so embedded in how they operate that the competitor who decides to start building next quarter isn't just 3 months behind.
They're a year behind a moving target.
I've been using a phrase throughout the series, and I want to close with it because I want you to hear it differently now than the first time when we said it. A technology enabled superpower. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about a clever tool. I'm not talking about a productivity shortcut. I'm not talking about something that saves you a few hours a week and lets you go home a little earlier. No, I'm talking about what Marcus has, what Sophia has, what James has, what Renata and Elena have. A business where intelligence is designed in, where the morning doesn't own you because you designed the morning that you wanted to have,
That's a superpower.
and not because AI is magic, but because you did the leadership work to build it. Six months from now, it's Tuesday morning. Your coffee is hot. The inbox is sorted. The briefing is waiting. The workflow ran while you were asleep. And somewhere between the coffee and the first call, you'll notice something.
You're not behind.
You're not behind because you built the system that makes sure of it, because you did the work, the real work of becoming an operator who leads intelligence instead of chasing it. Now, until next time, keep embracing change, keep innovating.
Keep building your technology-enabled superpower.
And
This has been Small Business, Big AI.
We'll catch you in the next episode.